Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm bringing you a review for the new Transformers Legacy Buzzworthy Bumblebee Predacon Terrorsaur. This Deluxe class figure is a companion piece to the Maximal Dinobot being released simultaneously, and is a toy-accurate recolor of the Kingdom Terrorsaur toy, which was itself a very heavy retool of the Kingdom Air Razor. This figure continues the trend of toy-accurate Beast Wars characters being released through Target, joining the likes of Black Arachnia, Dinobot, Scorponok, and as an avid fan of Beast Wars, I certainly hope he is not the last. That being said, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Terrorsaur's packaging, then we'll open it up. We'll get a quick look at his instructions, and then we'll see Terrorsaur himself in both Beast and Robot modes. Naturally, I'll be doing some group shots comparisons today, and then at the end of the video, I'll get my final thoughts. So Terrorsaur comes in your standard Deluxe Buzzworthy Bumblebee packaging. Got an open window right here where you can see the toy. You get the Legacy logo, the Buzzworthy logo. You get his name down here, Evil Predacon Terrorsaur, which is supposed to be, one, a reference to, the phraseology used during Beast Wars, but also a kind of contrast him against the heroic Maximal Dinobot. We also get some really nice artwork of his Beast mode, complete with a blaster coming out from the underside and firing. So, this is really leading into that toy aspect of him, and you can even see like the pins and stuff in the wings. So they're really leaning heavily into that. Over here, we get to see artwork of the robot mode. This also carries over a lot of toy details, like the pins in the wings, the little holes for like the mushroom pegs right here. And it's got some really nice coloration. He's got a very nice green glow to the eyes there. And then, of course, your usual Legacy particle effects. This side, just your normal Buzzworthy stuff with your random assortment of characters. And then on the back, we get renders of Terrorsaur in both Beast and Robot modes. He takes 22 steps to transform, which is quite good for Deluxe class. And again, we get to see his name here and the Legacy logo. So, Buzzworthy packaging is not my favorite. I do prefer the regular Legacy packaging. It's a bit nicer to look at. But at least they go out of the way to, cover the important things that you would see in the standard packaging, be it, the two different bits of artwork for the two modes and the renders on the back. So, it's not my preference, but I think it's good enough. Here we get our instruction book for Terrorsaur. And you get his name here, and unlike Dinobot, they actually got the right faction symbol this time. If you didn't see the previous video, Dinobot is a Maximal, but they give him a Predacon symbol. So they give Terrorsaur the same symbol, but actually works. And again, interestingly, this is pretty different from our standard Predacon symbol. So I'm thinking this is probably the one that's going to be used for the Rise of the Beast movie coming out next year. And they, whoever designed this just didn't know better and like, oh yeah, that looks like the Predacon thing, and just kind of threw it on there. That would be my guess. Then we see our render of Terrorsaur here on the front. Open this up. This shows you how to put his arm blades on and get his wings all folded upright. And this shows you how to have him either wield his weapon, holster it on his hip, or store it on his wing. So he's got a few options there. Then we get to our transformation from robot to beast. Continues around on the back, and then the last bit just shows you where to store it in his beast mode. So pretty cool. Everything you really need to transform this guy. Now we get to see Terrorsaur's beast mode, and you can see it's a pretty faithful recreation of the original, complete with the green speckles or spots all along his head and his back and everything. And it looks pretty good. It's quite accurate despite being a very different mold than the original. Obviously much more posable because, the head can swivel, mouth can open and close, the wings can flap, even the feet can pivot and stuff. So, he does look better, just, mold-wise than the original. My only two pet peeves with this mode are, one, so they went and gave him pupils. The original toy didn't have any, and I would have liked if they just kept the eyes just like that straight glowing yellow just to keep it true. And then he really should also have spots along his arms to go with the ones you see on his back and everything. It's pretty minor, and to be fair, his arms are much thinner than the original toys. I mean, it looks like they kind of sculpted some, skin details on there that would coincide with the spots, but they just decided not to paint that for whatever reason. So, it's a minor thing, a minor nitpick. But again, it's supposed to be Toy Colors 1, it should be as accurate as possible. One thing I do like is that they kept his beak or his snout true to the toy, and instead of painting it, orange or something to make it look like a bird beak, they kept it more like a dinosaur snout, like the original toy. But they still managed to go and paint his teeth, so yeah, it looks good overall. Pretty stable in this mode. Because the ankles are ball joints and are prone to, being kind of weighed down, if you push on him too much, he can flop forward. So you really just want to, tilt him back as far as those ball joints will allow. And, the majority of the time he should stay upright without any sort of issue. So, yeah, very cool looking, nice recreation of the original Pteranodon mode. And here's our comparison with the Kingdom Terrorsaur, who is obviously, cartoon-based. And the biggest differences between these two in this mode is the mouth area, right? You either have a snout or a beak, the eye color, and then just the specific, skin patterning. He has some spots on his back, but they're, much smaller in number, and they're black instead of green. And then any other differences are just, they come up to the robot parts, which are really supposed to be kind of hidden underneath, and I don't really count them in this mode because, the original toy, he had a whole bunch of robot kibble under him, but it was really the top of the toy we were looking at, so that's kind of how I view this. And as far as which one of these I like better in the Beast mode, it's kind of hard to say. I never had the original Terrorsaur toy as a kid, so I never really got to look at, its specific coloring and patterns too much, so I'm much more familiar with the show version. So on the one hand, the show version has some familiarity to me, right down to the, big yellow beak. But I will say I do like the lime green spots on the toy-based version. Even though it was kind of garish, it really does give that 90s toy feel, which is something that I'm always very nostalgic for. Now we come to the robot mode. And this is, in my opinion, the least faithful mode when talking about, 90s toy accuracy. And, for me, it's a couple of sticking points. The first one is the head sculpt. Now, he has the same exact head sculpt as the regular Kingdom Terrorsaur, and it is true that, Terrorsaur's show model, his head, was based on that of the original toy. However, it was much more stylized. It was made to be, taller, pointier, have this, sweeping crest that goes in the back to, kind of resemble the crest on his beast head. The original toy had a very squat, round helmet with just kind of a simple crest right there on the front. And I really would have liked to have seen them, retool the head specifically for this release. Because all of the other toy color characters so far have a toy-based head. The closest we've come to deviating from that was the recently released Scorponok in that Creatures Collide 4-pack. He came packaged with the standard, CGI-based head, but he came with an extra mutant head to, swap in there. So, I kind of give him a pass there. This guy, he really just rides on the sentiment of close enough, I suppose. And, it is close, but again, they want you to buy this toy a second time. I am looking for some effort, right? Some way of going, beyond just a simple little bit of, new paint detail and stuff, to really make him look like the classic toy. And I feel that they missed the mark there. The other big thing is that he doesn't have nearly as much black on him as he should. He does get some black. He gets some here, painted around the chest area, gets some in the pelvic region, and then he gets some in his elbow and knee joints. Actually, the knee joints are purple, so really just the elbow joints. Really, his entire upper arms and entire thigh areas should be either black paint or black plastic to really actually sell that classic look home. They didn't do that. And obviously there's, a molding requirement for why that is. But again, some paint would have been very nice on those parts. And while he does have a decent amount of paint on him already, it's not significantly more than the Kingdom Terrorsaur. So I don't know if they're really actually maxed out on their paint budget or if they just kind of phoned that in because they just decided it wasn't an important enough detail. But I do find myself a little disappointed because now he's got too much red, right? All that red on his body really kind of blends together. And if he had had more, dominant black on, especially on his arms and legs, it really would have helped break things up a little bit to where he doesn't look like just so, monotone. So yeah, I don't know. you might be saying that's very nitpicky. Maybe it is, but as somebody who is very partial to the original Beast Wars toys, I'm expecting them to really, make this thing work. And I mean, it's mostly good, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is a bad robot mode. They get a lot of things right as far as the helmet color. He gets the spotted details on the chest. He gets the purple hands and the purple on the shins. The solid red gun, because, the original toy just had an unpainted red blaster. He does a lot right. I would say equal parts, right and wrong. And of course, there's just my hang up with this mold in general about the whole fake chest thing, when that really wasn't necessary. If they had mimicked the setup of the original toy when they were retooling Air Razor into Terrorsaur, where like all this stuff was pretty much upside down from how it is on this toy, I mean, it would have worked, and you wouldn't have had to resort to having a fake, tail piece or a fake, beast butt for his chest. But yeah, that's what they went with. I can't really fault this toy for that because it's something that was already done for Kingdom. And here again is our Kingdom Terrorsaur for comparison. And, I was complaining about how this guy has too much red. Well, the Kingdom Terrorsaur is even worse about it, right? He is almost all red with a few small, silver highlights. And, I always found Terrorsaur's colors to be probably the least interesting of the Beast Wars cast. He was just really overly saturated with the color red, and I don't think really did enough to break the colors up to make his whole color scheme look very interesting. I think that the original toy had a much better color scheme and, something that stood out a bit more. Even if it was very, high contrast and clashing, right? You're talking bright red, dark purple, and lime green, and a lot of black too. I mean, colors all over the place, but it made him very visually interesting. So I think, find myself really preferring this robot mode to this one, just, purely on an aesthetic level. Obviously, this guy does a much better job, I think, of emulating Terrorsaur's CGI details than this guy does of emulating the 90s toy details, but I still just really find myself gravitating toward this look. It's very interesting to me. I love the painted helmet. I really like the lime green eyes as opposed to the yellow ones. But again, very subjective. I think which one of these you like more is just going to come down purely to your preference over, toy colors to show colors. Because they both do a pretty good job of achieving their, respective color palette. And this completes our look at the new Buzzworthy Bumblebee Terrorsaur. Overall, I do like this toy. I don't think it hits the mark in the toy colors department as well as some of the previous attempts, like the Dinobot and Scorponok and all that. Just too many discrepancies for my liking, but I don't think it's bad at all. It is, the closest we've come to a remake of the original toy just ever. So I do like it for that. I really like the colors. I think they pop a lot more than the show-based Terrorsaurs. And, I think it's a pretty good value. There's quite a bit of tooling and posability and everything that goes into this guy. He's a really nice deluxe. And he's especially great for all those people that missed out on the Kingdom Terrorsaur, right? Because here in the US, that toy was an Amazon exclusive. And it was kind of here and gone. A lot of people missed out on that one. And they were hoping to get a re-release of that guy. And they finally did. Now it's a different color scheme. And they may not be crazy about getting the toy colors if they're more of a Beast Wars show fan. But it is a great opportunity to get the mold, because the mold is great, whichever color scheme it uses. And I think it's a very, very fun toy. It's not perfect. It's got some weaknesses. I know the wings tend to pop off for some people with this mold. I know the ball-jointed feet can cause it to be a little wobbly, in certain poses, because it doesn't hold weight well. And even the shins will sometimes collapse down depending on, your copy. So it's a little fiddly compared to some things, but I still think it's a really, really great mold, and it's a lot of fun, and this is a really good way to get that one without having to buy it in a 2-pack or trying to, track down an expensive exclusive, anything like that. And yeah, I think it's really great, and of course, I love the toy homage because I'm a huge fan of the Beast Wars toys. So if you're, even vaguely tempted by this guy, I think he's worth picking up. You should be able to find him in your local Target here soon, if not already. And if you grab him, I think you'll be more or less happy with him. Of course, that is just how I feel about this Terrorsaur, so now I want to know what you all think of this toy. Is this something that you want? Are you in the market for, toy-based Beast Wars characters? Or do you just really want some version of Terrorsaur? Maybe you missed out on the original. Or do you not want this? Maybe you have the other one and you prefer that one, you don't need a second one. Or you don't like Terrorsaur, you don't like Beast Wars. Or maybe you don't like the color scheme, it is a bit garish. Any and all feedback is always welcome in that comment section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this look at the brand new Transformers Legacy Buzzworthy Bumblebee Toy Colors Predacon Terrorsaur. With all that said, I will see you next time.